Okay, now the last game that we have to talk about, we have Georgia taking on Clemson. Clemson is currently a 3-point favorite. This is my game of the week. I had a very hard time trying to take down notes for this game, trying to figure out what to talk about because these two teams are pretty evenly matched. These are two of the best teams in all of college football heading into the upcoming season. And these are two teams that we very well could see competing for the championship in the next couple of months. But when you look at Clemson, I think that this definitely is a must-win game for them. And I know you may be like, JT, how is this a must-win game for Clemson? Like, this is like week 0 of the college football season. There's still a lot of football to go, and I understand that. But the reason why I feel like this is a game that Clemson must win is because Georgia has a really tough conference that they play in called the SEC. So if they lose this game, they could still get in with how tough their schedule is. Clemson, on the other hand, the ACC isn't all that tough for them. So after this game, if they lose, then they're probably going to have to play a hope that a couple of other teams in the ACC kind of rise up throughout the cracks and that they can get ranked. And then hopefully you can either play a ranked North Carolina team or a ranked Miami team in the ACC championship game. So I think for Clemson, their road to the college football playoffs is going to be incredibly difficult if they lose this game. And I hate talking about the college football playoffs so early and things like that, but that's just something that I have to address. But my main concern for Georgia is not wide receiver. Like, I don't know why people keep trying to say that Georgia doesn't have a lot of depth and talent at wide receiver. Like, that narrative is just so false. Like, I understand that George Pickens is not going to be playing. We don't even know if he's going to be able to suit up this year because he suffered an injury earlier in fall camp. Well, in spring camp, excuse me. But you still do have Kearis Jackson. You have Jermaine Burton. Jermaine Burton is a really good deep threat. Kearis Jackson was really good also last year. And then Eric Gilbert, is he going to be able to play in this game or not? Currently, he's listed as questionable due to personal issues. But even if he doesn't play, like, Georgia still does have Kearis Jackson and Jermaine Burton. Those are two really good options. And then on top of that, I'm pretty sure that they can find another third or fourth guy on their depth chart who can end up stepping up and having a very solid game. So I don't really think that the talent and depth at wide receiver is a problem. The thing is that you just have a lot of unknown factors when it comes to the wide receiver position outside of Jackson and Jermaine Burton, which is why I think a lot of people have a lot of concerns because, you know, you always fear what you don't know. But I'm not too concerned about the talent and depth that Georgia has. Now, I'm really intrigued in seeing how different this UGA offense is going to look because last year Todd Monken was able to come in and he wasn't really able to implement what he wanted to do offensively due to COVID, you know, having, you know, not really a legitimate off season. Pretty much you didn't really have a spring camp. Fall camp was kind of limited. So you were doing everything basically installs and trying to teach the plays and whatnot via Zoom meetings. So on top of that, you had Stetson Bennett at quarterback for like the first portion of the season because you thought Jamie Newman was going to be the guy, but Jamie Newman decided to opt out and declare for the NFL draft and practice and whatnot. So the quarterback situation didn't really help, you know, the change offensively. And Stetson Bennett, you know, he was all right, but eventually we knew what Stetson Bennett was. Stetson Bennett was a guy who was going to be able to, you know, win you a couple of games when you had to face a team like Alabama or Florida and you really need a quarterback who can step up and make the big plays when it mattered the most. Stetson Bennett wasn't really going to be able to do that. So when JT Daniels came in, the Georgia offense kind of transformed a little bit. So I'm interested in seeing how different this offense looks now that JT Daniels and Tom Monken have a legitimate real offseason to work with, a real spring camp, a real fall camp. And I think that this probably could be the best offense that we've seen out of Georgia in a very long time. On top of that, the run game in this game, you're going to have James Cook and Zamir White, the best running back duo in all of college football. You have a really good offensive line. Now, when you look at Clemson, your main concern is probably going to be who is going to be replacing Travis Etienne and not so who's going to be replacing Trevor Lawrence, because we already know that DJ Uiagalelei is a baller. He balled out when Trevor Lawrence couldn't play against Notre Dame. He had a really great game. So I think that DJ Uiagalelei should be able to pick up right where Trevor Lawrence left off, and I think that they're going to continue their dominance at the quarterback position. You also have Justin Ross returning at wide receiver. That helps out a lot, and you have the best offensive line in the ACC. Now, when it comes to the run game, I don't really think the run game is going to be that effective in this game for two reasons. One, Clemson is kind of going to be running like a running back by committee. You have Lynn Dixon, Kobe Pace, and Will Shipley. And I don't really think that if you are a Clemson fan that you're going to have your answer in terms of who's going to be the RB1 for the remainder of the season after this game, because I don't really think Clemson is going to have that much success running the football against the defensive line of Georgia. And I understand that Clemson has a very good defense, a really good offensive line, but this defensive line for Georgia, their front seven is completely different. You have Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Adam Anderson, Quay Walker. Like, there are a lot of NFL bodies on this defensive line for Georgia. Not only can they get after the quarterback, but they are also very stout against the run. This defensive line reminds me a lot of the defensive line that Auburn had a couple of years back when you had Marlon Davidson and Derek Brown. It was basically a brick wall. That's what this defense reminds me of. And I'm not trying to say Clemson's offensive line is bad or anything like that. I'm just saying that I think that Georgia's defensive line is really going to make it tough on Clemson being able to run the football effectively. Now, in terms of comparing these two defenses, these are two very good defensive units. These two defensive units could very well be two of the best in all of college football. But even though I do like the front seven of Georgia more than I like Clemson's, in this game I like Clemson's secondary a little bit more than I like Georgia's secondary. The reason for that is because Georgia is going to be without defensive back Tyke Smith, who is doubtful to play in this game with a foot injury. So when you look at Clemson's secondary, you have Andrew Booth, who is really good. You have Fred Davis at cornerback, who is highly touted coming out of Jacksonville, coming out of Trinity Christian, and you guys know I'm from the city of Jacksonville, so you know I'm a little bit biased, but I think Fred Davis is going to be a stud. You also have Landon Zanders there at safety, Nolan Turner. So I kind of like the secondary of Clemson a little bit more in this game compared to the secondary of Georgia. You got Darion Kendrick there. You're going to have Amir Speed starting at the other cornerback spot, but I just like Clemson's secondary a little bit more. Now, if Tyke Smith was playing in this game, then I probably would side with Georgia. But I like the secondary of Clemson in this game, and that's going to be really exciting to watch because Georgia is going to try to push the football downfield more than what they have done in the past. This should be a very good passing attack that a lot of Georgia Bulldog fans are expecting a lot of with JT Daniels at QB. So for that Clemson secondary, I want to see how they're going to perform. And Clemson's secondary was kind of up and down last year, in my opinion. Like, they had some really good games. They also had some really bad games also. But when you look at the biggest deciding factor in this game, okay, it's really going to come down to how good is Clemson's offensive line going to be when it comes to protecting DJ Uiagalelei, because you have some locomotives coming at you on that defensive line for Georgia, and this is the best defensive line in all of college football because they have some guys. So for Clemson to be able to win this game, man, like, they're going to have to be able to hold their own, which I believe that they do have a good chance of being able to do that, but I do feel like there's going to be some key moments during the game where that pass rush from Georgia is going to kind of find a way to break loose, and they're going to be extremely disruptive. I don't expect Georgia just to be dominating the line of scrimmage for the whole entire game, but I do feel like Clemson's offensive line is going to have some hiccups here and there just because of how much talent is on this Georgia defensive line. Like, there are a lot of guys on this defensive line who are going to be playing on Sundays, a lot of NFL bodies. So when I look at Clemson, like, definitely it's going to come down to DJ Uiagalelei because I don't really think they're going to have a lot of, effectiveness weakness running the football against that stout Georgia front seven. Now, on the other hand, Clemson also has a very good defensive line. A lot of you Clemson fans are going to be like, hey, don't forget about our defensive line either. Your defensive line is right up there. Now, it's not as talented as Georgia's, but it's definitely in that conversation. It's one of the 5 best D-lines, top 10 in all of college football. Now, when you look at JT Daniels, I definitely feel like JT Daniels, when he does get pressure in his face, he kind of does get a little bit rattled at times. I'm not saying he's bad against pressure. I'm just saying that sometimes he does tend to get a little bit rattled here and there. Now, for Clemson, they're going to have their hands full trying to contain the run game with James Cook and Zamir White. So it's kind of pick your poison in terms of how you want to attack this offense. So for me, I'm going to take Georgia to win this game. I think that a lot of people are kind of underestimating Georgia simply for the fact that you don't know the status of Gilbert. They don't really know how much talent Georgia has at wide receiver. Georgia is really good up front on both sides of the football. They have the best offensive line or second best offensive line in the SEC this year, and you have the best D-line in all of college football. And I really feel like this defensive line is going to give Clemson a lot of problems in this game. Okay, I know Clemson's offensive line is pretty good, but I just think that the men that Georgia has on their defensive line are just built different. Like I'm trying to tell you guys, a lot of people don't understand the entourage and the manslaughter that Georgia's defensive line is about to put on a lot of teams this year. And I do think that there's going to be some key moments where that pass rush is going to come into play, and it's going to affect several scenarios in the game. Maybe it'll be a red zone scenario where somebody's able to break through and get a key stop on the goal line, or maybe somebody's able to get a big sack on third down. Like I definitely feel like the pass rush for Georgia is going to be heavily effective this season and in this game. And even if you do have questions about, Georgia's secondary, you can be like, well, JT, what about Georgia's secondary? Okay, if you have a good defensive line that can create pressure on the quarterback constantly, that's going to help out that secondary, because then those guys aren't going to have to be in coverage for that long. So I'm going to take Georgia to win this game. I think Georgia wins 34-30. This game is going to be extremely tight, extremely close, but I think Georgia is going to end up pulling off the win in this game. So you guys let me know who you guys have winning this game down in the comment section down below.